Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, and today we gotta have a serious conversation about our boy Konohamaru Sarutobi, because the moment that Konohamaru fans have been waiting for 8 long years, it is finally here at last. Konohamaru is finally in a real battle against a strong enemy, and there is no turning back for his character now. There were plenty of fans who entered Boruto Naruto Next Generations, and they had these high expectations that Konohamaru, he'd be the Kakashi for this generation, of this wet behind the ears young shinobi, and they would look to Konohamaru as this super skilled and awesome shinobi who was leading the way for them on missions, and they would aspire to be just like him. After all, he was entrusted as the sensei with the legacy of the 4 strongest shinobi to have ever existed: Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Uchiha, and Orochimaru himself. That's a very, very big responsibility, and it's almost enough to set someone up for failure, because you're basically being entrusted with these shinobi who aren't just coming from really good stock, but they're also shinobi who have one thing in common: they are all generational geniuses. So the expectations, they are high. It is different because your challenge to train them is not the same as it is to train a slightly above average or an average Genin. That's why in today's newest Naruto Explain video, I want to have a very serious discussion with you guys about Konohamaru Sarutobi and his upcoming role in the battle he's currently a spectator in, which is Sarada versus Hidari. And I want to tackle the biggest elephant in the room, one that has been around forever, which is whether or not Konohamaru has a power-up hidden that hasn't been taken into account. And one of those possibilities is that mythical monkey sage mode. Somebody get the banana. So being upfront with you guys who are new to the channel, I'm pretty much consistent in my stance that Konohamaru, he is not weak. I make jokes about Konohamaru. I'm joking about Konohamaru on the thumbnail now, and I've said consistently, had this 31-year-old Konohamaru been dropped into the Naruto Shippuden era, there's enough there, in my opinion, to slide him above his Uncle Asuma, well above his Uncle Asuma, who is a Konoha elite, above Hidan, who is a Kage level shinobi who killed Asuma, but below Shippuden era Kakashi, Kakuzu, and the Gold and Silver brothers. Which is to say, Konohamaru, just based off of what we saw in Boruto Naruto Next Generations, he isn't a bum by any stretch. Unfortunately, he's just run into 3 major problems that leads to fans to downplay his character, not realize how strong he is, and makes him the butt of several jokes. Problem number 1 is the guy was consistently placed in fights with people who were either stronger than them or extremely stronger than him. Anytime you're fighting people who Naruto and Sasuke themselves cannot beat in the form of Jigen, and then against Ishiki, and you're struggling against Kashi and Koji, who is relative to Kakashi as Hokage, which Boruto era Kakashi is stronger than the War Art Kakashi who had the Mangekyo Sharingan and was fighting Obito and Madara. And as we all know, War Art Kakashi was absolutely strong. Konohamaru stood no chance in any of those fights. In the 2 fights that he did have someone where he was somewhat relative to them, we saw flashes of him holding his ground and doing very well. We saw him throwing down with an enraged Jugo and tagging him a few times in that fight. Very impressive, and still being able to blow Jugo all the way across the forest despite Jugo draining his chakra as Konohamaru was preparing for that attack. And then we saw in the Al fight where he and the members of Team 7, they were all shown to be pretty much relative to Al during that, and the members of Team 7 and Konohamaru were just using a strategy to remove the ninja tech advantage that Al had, and they used Boruto to do so. But that fight saw Konohamaru getting mean because people disingenuously say, oh my god bro, he got knocked out, Boruto had to save him, and then they leave out the fact that he was protecting Boruto's dumb ass, who for 3 arcs into the story still hadn't learned to not lower his guard. Context is king. He suffers from being a shinobi in an era that has long since moved past his level of power, and being on a team of prodigies who, the moment he got his hands on them and they got ready for the tuning exams, they were already at a Jonin level of power. By the end of part 1, they could all just take turns lining up and whooping his ass. The third thing is that he has going against him the fact that expectations, they're based off of unfairly a lone moment in Naruto's manga where the guy revealed, hey, he learned the Rasengan at a younger age than Naruto, and he managed to stun one of the pains in the process. But outside of that one moment, every time he was ever used in the manga, it was for gag humor and it was for cheap laughs. Even in the chapter where he calls Naruto's rival for the Hokage position in chapter 2, it was Konohamaru being used for gag humor. Hence, I tend to keep my expectations low for his character. However, all that changes right now in the manga given where we are, and that's why I had to walk through why Konohamaru is stronger and underappreciated than people realize. So, this Konohamaru is watching the Genin that he's in charge with, Sarda, fighting against a clone of Sasuke. The knee-jerk reaction might be to say, hey, if Konohamaru was headed there to fight, knowing he'd be fighting Sasuke, then he clearly got stronger, and he may very well have gotten stronger. But the fact that he's also there with some random tuning, it makes me pause with hesitation. But for argument's sake, let's just say Konohamaru gives me a very welcome surprise in the next chapter or in the ones afterwards, and we see that he is leveled up like crazy. Narratively, is there anything backing this up? And honestly, what could be the power or the overpowered jutsu that he is possessing? So the first answer to that first question is going to be a definite yes. Konohamaru, for all the mess I give him, he's got a clear potential. That was made obvious when you consume all the media for the Boruto era story, from the manga, the databases and the manga volumes themselves, the anime, the light novels, and even an entry about him going as far back as the 4th Naruto data book, which covers the story up until the end of Naruto chapter 700. Konohamaru has potential, and he's gotten praise from a lot of notable people. One of the Boruto databases for Boruto Naruto Next Generations reveals that Konohamaru is on a short list of people from Naruto's generation who Naruto will allow to break the standard operating procedures to go on a mission as a part of a 2-man team instead of the traditional 3 to 4-man team. The reason being is that his growth after the Ninja War, it impressed both Naruto and Shikamaru, with Shikamaru going so far as to call him a genius. High praise, because Shikamaru is a genius himself. And the man getting the 2-man team leverage for Konohamaru, it isn't something that you can sniff your nose up at. The only shinobi who are allowed to take solo missions in Konoha are Naruto on a rare occasion, Kakashi if he sees something that gets his attention despite him being retired, Sakura, and most importantly Sasuke. They've clearly chosen to elevate him above the standard jonin, but he's in that class of people like Tamari who they're allowed to go out on a 2-man team mission if they want to, but they're not in that same tier with Naruto and the members of Team 7. You have Sasuke flat out saying in one of the Boruto novels that Konohamaru has potential he has not reached yet, which is why he felt comfortable trusting him to be the sensei to his daughter, because he felt Konohamaru still had room to grow. Those are strong cosigns, and we've seen that Konohamaru has at least backed it up to a degree. In the anime, he's added wind release to make his own wind release Rasengan, which was similar to the one that Naruto made, but is larger in size than the standard wind release Rasengan that damaged Kakashi's arm in training, but smaller than the Rasen Shuriken, which is the 100th reminder on the channel. Those are 2 jutsu. Wind release jutsu is the parent jutsu to what eventually becomes the Rasen Shuriken, but they're 2 different jutsu altogether. He accomplished something at the age of 28 that not even a genius like Minato was able to do, which was add another change in chakra nature. And it's important to note that he does not have the monster chakra reserves that Naruto did, where he could use the method of making thousands upon thousands of shadow clones to speed up the process. And that in of itself, that is a testament to his skill level. Well, I don't think many of us would say his chakra levels are as high as Naruto without Kurama, which Naruto without Kurama, that's something that gets severely downplayed. Like, my God, people don't realize how broken Naruto's chakra levels are even without Kurama. You can make the argument based off of all the things that we've seen that he at least has chakra levels high enough to consider the possibility he has learned some form of sage mode, because having high chakra levels, it is stated as a requirement to even be able to attempt sage mode training period. For the 2 types of sage mode that we are made aware of on how they are attained, you have to have an enormous chakra for both of them. With Toad sage mode, it's directly told to us that you have to have that high chakra level, and for Snake sage mode, you not only have to have that high chakra level, but you also have to have a physical body that is strong enough to pass through the Ryuchu Cave trials, which is implied that those trials themselves are more so based in yin release, and that also means you have to have a strong enough mind to get through it, and then you have to be able to withstand the bite of the White Snake Sage, who automatically gives you the power of Sage Mode if you can survive that bite. I don't think we see that fan favorite idea that people have had of Monkey Sage Mode Konohamaru, because we haven't even seen the remote possibility of such a thing existing. And if there is one, you would think his grandfather, who even at the age of 69 was stated to be the strongest of the 5 Kage during that time. So think about Raikage A, 69-year-old Hiruzen who fought Orochimaru was stronger than him. 69-year-old Hiruzen could beat the brakes off of Konohamaru and not be pushed like he was when he was fighting Orochimaru. You would think if it existed, Hiruzen would have had it. For a guy who was named the professor and was so driven by gaining knowledge that he was stated to have mastered and figured out the mechanics of every fighting style in Konoha that wasn't Kekkei Genkai. So things like Wood Release and Sharingan and Byakugan, he couldn't learn it. He could understand how it worked, but he couldn't actually perform it. But jutsu like the Shadow Possession, Expansion Jutsu, Mind Transfer Jutsu, basically Hidden Jutsu, all things that he figured out the mechanics of despite not being a member of the clan. Someone like that would learn a Monkey Sage Mode if it existed, and he would certainly have used it in that battle with Jubi Obito when he was an Edo Tensei, because Obito was smoking those Edo Tensei Hokage. So I rule out Monkey Sage Mode. I'll be very pleasantly surprised. The thumbnail probably tells you as much. Right now I'm thinking of having Konohamaru holding up a jar like a homeless bum begging for money to go buy beer, and just write on the can, anyone got power-ups. But when it comes to him reaching his potential, I think there's something there narratively to justify it. I think he does reach it. Konohamaru, he spent the last 3 years thinking that Naruto was dead. Naruto, the guy who was the strongest shinobi in the history of the planet, was killed, and he never got the chance to fight him for the title Hokage like they agreed to. Not that Konohamaru ever stood a chance of winning unless he gave Naruto some spoiled milk for the ramen that he was eating, or he not to hit Naruto's kinky behind with the 64 palms double fisting beforehand. So there's no reason to think that 28-year-old Konohamaru would have had that dog in him. However, ripping that blanket off, it is a strong motivator for his character, in particular the grandson of the 3rd Hokage and the child of what we were told were 2 elite Anbu Black Ops, according to the Naruto Road to Be one shot that Kishimoto helped draw several years ago that was called Naruto Road to Be. I do believe that there might be some hope that Konohamaru has leveled up by taking inspiration from losing Naruto as a motivating factor. I think if you're a Konohamaru fan, you better hope that's exactly what he did, because he's in a situation where he's either stepping up to the plate, he's about to handle business and back up his student, or he's about to be put on life support, and Konohamaru fans everywhere are going to be feeling the same pain that Code fans felt, but even worse, because Code at least had expectations. But if that makes you sad, clicking on this video to the right might cheer you up if you like other anime, or clicking here on the left will make you realize how strong Konohamaru was at the end of Boruto Part 1, because I put some respect on that boy's name.